issues of history and identity will be explored in today's discussion through 3 levels of analysis. We will first examine the impact of xenophobia on Afghan intellectual progress. Second, look at the impact of war on Afghan culture, and finally, examine the diaspora's dilemma. But our intention for today's event is to revitalize our history and subsequently illuminate the powerful identity we all share. And we'll do that with the aid of 3 distinguished academic scholars of Afghan history. First, Tamim Ansary, Fariba Nawa, and Atta Arghandiwal. Now, this beautiful event and the architect behind this movement came from a grassroots organization we call Afghan Beat, whose goal is simple: to represent the many faces and voices of the Afghan community, to create a modicum of solidarity and engender an atmosphere of positivity that allows all of us to grow as a community and as individuals. In lieu of that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker.
I said, how can I explore that? And that's what I wanted to do, to capture this. And the times when we were living together in Sharara, just like most other places inside that country, where every neighbor, there was a Panshiri, there was a Kandori, there was a Jalalabadi, you name it, we were right there. That's what was Afghanistan. That's what we remember. That's what we should go back to. We should never allow these people or these culprits today that talk about the variations and the groups and this again that. And I want to take these people back to those days and say, this is what it was, my friend. This is what Afghanistan was all about. This is the Afghan Pride. And today they're damaging. They're causing a lot of
something that Afghans do.
The latest article, and I'm going to finish with this, is the UN representative to Afghanistan was asked a question at a big press conference, and it was, the rate of domestic violence has gone up 20% from 2011 to 2012. There are 87% of Afghan homes inside Afghanistan, there's domestic violence. Why is that? Do you know what he said? He said it's our culture. To thousands of people reading this, and I was one of them. It's very upsetting because you and I know that our brothers and our fathers are not beating us every day. But this is the image that is being presented out there. And I think the most important thing we can do as Afghan Americans to combat that is to tell our own stories to whoever we meet outside of the community. So that they know.
And at the time when we were in school, we were told the shape of our history is, you know, there were these dramatic wars with the British, then we won our independence, and that's the shape of our history. Our flag was a representative of that. You know, the black was for the period of being oppressed by the foreigners. The blood was the blood shed for independence, and the green was for the peace and independence we had as a Muslim nation. But what we didn't know then was that the biggest event of our history, the defining event of Afghan history, wasn't back there. It was in the future, and it was so close that the shadow was already falling on us and we didn't even know it. And then it came. And now these last 30 years have been a hugely, incredibly violent time. This country has been more smashed and stomped than most other places on earth. There are some competitors.
Americans all together. It was about what I could do, what we could do now, and as the events were unfolding, and I was
to begin to form a unified culture and country, and then it goes back to that.
And I think there needs to be a strong leadership.
Where is the leadership and where is the accountability? And as long as those two does not exist, that's
What's your overall impression of tonight's event?
I
thought it was amazing. The speakers were amazing. The MC was awesome. I can't believe he's only 17 years old.
Shoaib John, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
he was great.
Senior in high school, yeah.
And the turnout, it was better than I was expecting. We ended up bringing out extra chairs for the people, and I think the mix of the crowd was great. There was younger people, older people, people bringing their families, their parents, so I think it was a great crowd.
And Mustafa John, what's your overall feedback on tonight's event?
I think I was wowed when I saw the amount of work, planning, and organization behind the event. But even beyond that, I think the idea behind the event is more inspiring, because I have been here for 2.5 years and I have been going to events and things like that. One of the things that I've seen lacking in the Afghan American community in US is that there is no dialogue. Mm-hmm. Everyone is busy with studies and work, mm-hmm. and then there's no time so that Afghans can get together and discuss some of the very important issues that they're dealing, not only in the United States, but also their home country back in Afghanistan. So I think this event was a wonderful example of bringing in scholars like the speakers we had tonight, and then bringing in Afghan community themselves, not only to listen what these scholars have to say about Afghanistan's history and the identity, but also create inspiration. Because the young generation of today, the Afghan Americans here, are more educated than any other generation. Mm-hmm. They are going to some of the best schools in the United States. They're studying a wide array of areas. What they lack is inspiration, a connection that connects
what would you say is one of the few things that
you've
learned from tonight's event?
So one of the very first things I learned is that the turnout in this event showed that there's an immense interest in learning about Afghanistan. Because if people were not interested, they wouldn't have come to the event tonight. I think there was an overwhelming number of people who came, all of Afghan Americans in the Bay Area. So that was the very first inspiring thing for me, that people are interested to understand and know what's happening. The second thing is the actual initiative by the Afghan Beat. Because someone has to take the leadership. Someone has to take the first step to create a vehicle for creating the dialogue, in understanding, in communication.
And what would you say is a couple of things that you've learned from tonight's event?
Sure, I learned that there's a thirst and kind of wanting to know more about Afghanistan, know the history, know the culture, and really know where we came from. I think for people my age or younger, or just speaking for myself, we're thinking that Afghanistan is just about war and just about heroin and opium, violence, right? Yeah. And learning that it has such a rich and powerful history was really nice.
Great. And would you attend events like this by Afghan Beat in the future?
Definitely. I'm actually looking forward to the next one.
And could you tell us a little bit about the overall feedback that you have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having my father and myself here. It's definitely an honor to be a part of such a cool organization. It's really, really good to see. As far as feedback, nothing but positive feedback. One thing that I've noticed here that was a lot different than other events is that there was a social aspect to this event. We were able to network, we were able to get to know people that we'd never met in our entire lives but lived 10, 15 miles away. And that's what it is. I think this world in general, in order for it to succeed, in order for Afghanistan to succeed, it's all about networking, getting to know each other, finding our positives and negatives and working it out. So
those are excellent.